Good afternoon. Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of From Dina's Desk. I am Dina Bilru, your career and life coach. And on today's episode, we will be talking about how to answer 6 difficult interview questions. We all have those interview questions that we're a little bit nervous about. We're not exactly sure how to answer. We don't really know, are we saying the right thing or are we saying the wrong thing? Are we giving too much or giving not enough? And so I want to talk about some of those most difficult questions that I help people with when I'm coaching them through interviews. And I want to give you some best practices and some tips that you can use. So as you go through your interviews, you will shine and you will be able to answer questions confidently. So the first question that I want to talk about is tell me about yourself. And with the tell me about yourself question, that's pretty much an industry standard. That's going to be something that you know they're going to ask, and they're pretty much going to start off with that question. And why do they start off with that question? Well, they start off with it really just kind of as an icebreaker. You know, they're trying to get settled into the interview. They want to give you an opportunity to get a little bit comfortable and kind of start talking. And they're just trying to get a little bit of background, right? It's just really a way to kind of start the interview off and kind of just start as an icebreaker and get some background information before they get into some of those more difficult questions. And so, with the tell me about yourself question, you really want to think about it as a way to give yourself a 60-second commercial. 60 seconds is pretty much the standard that you would need to be able to tell somebody about yourself. Now, of course, if you've been working a little bit longer, or maybe you're in a senior level executive type position, you may need a little bit longer. So if you need to go with 90 seconds or maybe 2 minutes, and it's no problem. You can use some of the same tactics. You just want to kind of stretch it out. So with the 60-second commercial, so that it doesn't seem so overwhelming or seem like a daunting task, you may want to break it up into 2 different parts. The first 30 seconds is going to be talking about your past and where you've been. And then the next 30 seconds is going to be talking about where you are currently and where you want to go in your future. Okay. So if we think about the past, you may want to talk about your years of experience, how many total years of experience you have, or years of experience in your particular industry. You may want to talk about the education that you bring to the table, maybe some of your certifications. And you may want to talk about specifically what you've done. You've worked on a project up to a certain amount of dollars. You've managed this amount of people. You know, you've dealt with this particular budget. So think about your past and think about what have you done and basically what are you bringing to the table, and start off your first 30 seconds talking about that. And then your second 30 seconds, you may want to talk about what you're doing currently. So you may want to say, currently, I'm the manager of a team of 10 people. Currently, I am working on 12 projects. You know, currently, I am implementing some processes to improve X, Y, and Z. And then I'm looking to transition into a position where I can learn more about this. I applied for this position because I want to be able to do this, right? So you're talking about the future. So the first 30 seconds talking about your past, where you've been and what you bring to the table. Then go into the last 30 seconds talking about currently what you do, projects you're working on, what you're currently working with, and then go into your future. And then once you do that, that should be your 60-second commercial. I recommend that you write it out line by line, sentence by sentence in the beginning, and kind of organize your thoughts, and then practice saying it. And you may want to record yourself. You know, you can record yourself on Zoom, you know, to be able to look at yourself and to be able to hear yourself. You can use your cell phone, you know, for that 1-minute timer to kind of see, do I need a little bit more or am I not saying quite enough? So definitely make sure you write it down. Make sure you practice it so you have it. You don't want to sound rehearsed, but you definitely want to sound prepared, and make sure that you do have a good 60-second commercial that you want to start off with a bang, and start off selling yourself right in the beginning of the interview. Now, the second question that I know people sometimes struggle with is, what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? And this is difficult because we don't want to say anything bad, right? We don't want to raise any red flags. We don't want to say anything negative about ourselves. So we have to be very careful with how we answer this question. Now, when it comes to the strengths, I think people pretty much know what their strengths are. So you just want to maybe have 2 or 3 things that you want to say that you would say are your areas of expertise. So you may say, some of my strengths are public speaking, team management, and relationship building. Okay, those might be your 3. And then you may want to give a 1 or 2 sentence example of one of those 3. So for instance, if you said relationship building, you may say, currently at my job, I'm a liaison between, internal and external stakeholders. And it really requires me to do a lot of relationship building to make sure everyone is on the same page. And because that's one of my strengths, it's something that I'm able to do, and I'm able to help, all of our projects be successful, right? So after you've listed what they are, maybe give an example of just one of them. And then when we go over to the weaknesses, I want you to reword that. No matter how they ask the question, I want you to reword it and say areas of opportunity. Areas of opportunity. So I want you to say an area of opportunity I have is this. And I only want you to say one thing. This is not the time to, rattle off all of the things that you need to improve upon, because again, you're trying to get the job, right? You're trying to have a great first impression. So just pick one thing and say an area of opportunity may be my ability to tell people no. I'm very passionate about my job. I'm very passionate about what I do. So sometimes it's difficult for me to tell people no whenever they're asking for my assistance. But I'm learning that it's not healthy for me to overload myself and to have my plate full all the time. So what I'm doing is when someone is asking me for assistance, I'm letting them know that I'm not able to help them, and then I refer them to someone else who can. So when you're answering that question, you're letting them know, this is what my area of opportunity is. I need to learn to tell people no, and I'm working on it. Always have a fix. Always have a way that you're working on your area of opportunity, or what they may call a weakness, and let them know you are working on it and you have a fix for it. So as long as you do that, and as long as you, come to the table with the fix, then you should be fine when it comes to answering that question. The next question is, tell me about a time whenever you didn't meet a deadline. What was your specific role, and tell me how it turned out. So anytime someone asks you a question that starts off, tell me about a time, or give me an example of, those are called behavioral questions. They're trying to gauge your behavior and what you've done in the past, which will be an indication of how you would behave, so to speak, or what you would do if they were hiring you currently for this job. Now, the first two questions, to tell me about yourself and your strengths and weaknesses, those were traditional. Now we're getting into more of the behavioral questions where, again, they're trying to gauge what you've done in the past, which will indicate what you would do currently. And so if there's a situation where something didn't work out well, again, you can really still excel in this question if you just tell the truth, you're authentic, tell a complete story, and make sure you end on a positive note. Because we know in the workplace, when you're on a team, when you're working with customers, when you're working with stakeholders or what have you, it's not always going to go well. Things don't always go well, right? So be honest about that. Because they're going to want someone that's going to be authentic and be truthful and bring those qualities to the table. And so say, for instance, there was a time when, you may say, I had a project where, I was the project manager, and my task was to define the scope, to understand user requirements and make sure we were meeting those requirements, and make sure we did everything on time and within budget. Everything was going well at first, but I realized about halfway in, we uncovered some things that we didn't see in the beginning, and I realized it was going to take us a little bit longer. And because I'm someone who's just always optimistic, I thought we could still make our deadline, and I didn't bring those concerns to the table. And because I didn't do that, we missed our deadline, and our customer ended up being upset. But now I know that anytime I'm on a team, whether I'm over the project or I'm just participating on the team, it's extremely important for me to raise those red flags, to let people know what the concerns are, so that we can readily come up with a plan. We can pivot if necessary, and so that we can still have a level of success. Okay? So with that question, you told them what you did, what your specific task was, what you were tasked with doing, what the concern was, how you didn't meet the deadline. And again, what did you learn from that situation so that you can not do it again in the future? And then as you go through with the rest of your career and the rest of your jobs, you will know the importance of pivoting, the importance of speaking up, and the importance of communicating effectively. So the next question that sometimes gives people difficulty is, what do you like most about your current job, and what do you like least about your current job? So again, this is another question where you have to handle it with care, and you definitely want to make sure that you give a safe answer when it talks about what do you like least about your job. And again, they're looking for authenticity, because we know no job is perfect, but this is definitely not the time to just rattle off all the things that you don't like about your current job, your team members, or your supervisor, or what have you. You want to make sure that you still stay positive. So when it comes to what you enjoy the most, give about 2 or 3 things that you enjoy. So I enjoy the work that I do, I enjoy my team members, and I enjoy the flexibility that I have on my current team. And when it comes to what I enjoy the least, is there are really just no opportunities for advancement. I've been with the company for about 4 years, and I think I've outgrown my current position. I've spoken with my supervisor several times and expressed this, and there's just been no answer. It's been met with no answer. So that's the reason why I applied for this job today, because I'm really just looking to grow. And so that's really what I don't like about the company, or like least, is that there are just no opportunities for me to cross train and no opportunities for me to expand. So when you say something like that, you gave a really safe answer. It was something that, you didn't throw anybody under the bus. You didn't say anything negative, because they're thinking if you say something negative about your current employer, then you're going to end up saying something negative about them down the road. So again, you don't want to raise any red flags, and you just want to say something like there are no opportunities for advancement. There's no opportunity for growth. And I'm someone who likes to constantly, be able to upskill and constantly be able to advance. And I just can't do that. So that's what I like the least. Then another one would be a stress question, right? So we talked about the traditional questions, the tell me about yourself, the strengths and weaknesses. Then we talked about the behavioral questions, which was talking about the time when you didn't make a deadline and what you enjoy least and most, okay, about the job. Now we want to get into some of those stress questions, which no one likes. And the reason why you may be asked a stress question is, again, they're just trying to gauge, how you are, particularly if you're going to be in a stressful situation. If you're going to be in a situation where maybe you are the liaison between 2 different departments and there's a lot of tense conversations rather, and there's a lot of, things that are going on that may be kind of stressful and tense, or if you're going to be the face of the organization and you have to face people and you have to, remain politically correct, or you're going to face, upset customers and things like that. They want to know you can keep your composure. They want to know that even when it gets stressful, you know how to give an answer, you know how to remain professional, and you know how to represent the company well. So an example of a stress question may be, suppose you had a situation where you knew one of your team members was doing something unethical. What would you do and how would you handle that situation? And your response could be something like, well, if there was a team member that I suspected was doing something unethical, the first thing that I would do is I would go to that team member and I would have a conversation about it. I would let them know what I observed and what I thought was something that was unethical, and I would give them an opportunity to give me more information, because I certainly wouldn't want to jump to any conclusions. And once they told me, their side of it, or gave me their perspective, I would very professionally, maybe just kind of let them know that some of the things that they're doing could negatively affect the team, negatively affect the company, and ultimately impact our bottom line. And I would just maybe ask them to think about it. And of course, if the behavior persisted and they continue to do these unethical things, I would have no choice but to, let the higher ups know and bring it to their attention, because again, I understand the importance of, not affecting our bottom line. And then at that point, I would just remove myself from the situation. So you're letting them know this is how you would handle it. You recognize certain things aren't being done well and are being done correctly. But the biggest thing is to remain calm. Answer that question just as calmly and confidently and professionally as you would the rest, right? They're putting that in there because they're knowing they're going to hire you for a stressful situation, and they want to know that you can represent the company well and you won't lose your composure when those type of situations come up in real time. And then lastly, the last question, number 6, is, if we were to hire you, what would be your salary expectation, right? What is the salary that you're expecting at this particular point in your career? And again, this is one of those questions where people freeze up. They don't exactly know what to say. And we've been told that whoever says a number first loses. Well, I want to offer you something different and let you know that's not necessarily true. You can get the salary that you want. You can be successful in this area, and you can answer this question confidently and successfully if you do the right amount of research and preparation. You definitely want to make sure that you research, the particular role that you are applying for. And you can do that by looking on salary.com. You can look on payscale.com. You can look on glassdoor.com. You can simply do a Google search. And if you're going into the marketing field and say maybe you're applying for a marketing analyst position, you can Google marketing analyst salary Dallas, Texas, right? Put the job that you're looking for and the location so that you can get a realistic salary range, right, for that particular position. And then you want to assess whether you're an entry level person, a mid level person, or a senior level professional, right? And that'll be able to gauge because most of the time they're going to give you those different ranges. And then once you identify the dollar amount that you want to make, you maybe want to go a little bit less than that and then go a little bit above that to give maybe like a $5,000 range. So say, for instance, if you know you want to make $80,000, you would say 79 to 84,000 would be a good range to get for that position. So when you're asked that question in an interview, you can very confidently, very calmly say, based on the research that I've done, I know that marketing analysts in this position make from $79,000 to $84,000. And I believe with my skills and qualifications, I fit within that range, and I'm certainly willing to negotiate. And then just stop talking, because sometimes we feel like we need to keep going and we need to keep substantiating the reason why we're asking for that particular salary. Just very confidently and calmly state you've done your research, you know what the going rate is, and you feel with your skills and abilities and what you're bringing to the table, you fit right within that range. And then always let them know you're willing to negotiate, because you never know, you may be able to get a little bit more, or if they give you a little bit less, you can negotiate other things, because there are more things to negotiate than actually the dollar amount. So again, being confident with that, answering that question very professionally and very calmly is going to go a long way to you being able to be successful. So those were some of the 6 most difficult questions that I know people have, that I know people struggle with as I'm working with people to help them prepare for their interview. But again, the key is to be prepared. The key is to tell a complete story, making sure you're always being positive. And even if things didn't end on a positive note or go the way that you wanted them to, always talk about what you learned from it, so that employers will know this person learned from their mistakes or learned from maybe not doing it the right way. And then if we were to hire them, they would do it differently, if they were to get the job. So thank you so much for joining today. I'm sure that this was helpful for you. I hope that it was. And please leave me comments and let me know some of the most difficult questions that maybe you've had, so that we can continue to have that conversation. And I'd be more than happy to answer those for you. Thank you so much and have a great day. See you next week.